Our attention overseas now for a moment because there is growing interest and discussion in the Italian newspapers lately that there is a possibility of an American successor to Pope Benedict XVI. He will begin his last week as leader of the Catholic Church. The U.S. will have an unprecedented voice, actually, in the election of a new pope because the U.S. is sending 11 cardinals as electors to the papal conclave, and they must all be under the age of 80 to be voting. That makes them second only to the Italian contingent. So they're the second largest group of electors are coming from America, which is unprecedented. I am joined now by Father Frank Pavone, the National Director of Priests for Life. Father, good morning. Good to have you with us today.
Martha, good to see you again.
What do you think about that? I mean, you know, the Archbishop Dolan, Cardinal Dolan, pardon me, comes up frequently, as does Cardinal O'Malley, a new article just written about him the other day, pointing to him from Boston as well as a possibility. How likely do you think that is?
Well, you know, anything's possible. I think it's considered more likely than it has been in the past. But of course, between now and the election, there's going to be a lot of speculation. You see various lists being generated of possible names. And who's on those lists depends on what perspective one is taking as to what's an important consideration. Yeah. You have 117 cardinals voting. I guess that means there's going to be at least 200 different perspectives of what is important, what should we consider most. And the interesting thing about papal elections, of course, is that there are no nominees, there are no primaries. It's just as likely that there would be someone who didn't appear on any of the lists at all. But it is a very interesting thing to see, as you just mentioned, how these some of these American names are coming up. And as I say, anything's possible.
Yeah. You know, you touched on it. And that is, the question is, what is the most important thing that the conclave believes we need to have in the next pope? And I know that, you know, the rising trend of secularism in the world is of great concern to the Catholic Church, and that may be something that's focused on. There's also sort of the issue that is a sleeper and perhaps should not be, and that's persecution against Christians all around the world, the sort of global plight of Christianity. I read recently that 100,000 Christians have been killed every year in the name of the faith for the last 10 years. I think that is sort of an underreported story.
It's a major issue, and what we have to keep in mind is that the cardinals come together with the good of the church as their primary consideration. And the good of the church, as they see it, as they know it, as pastors themselves, and many of them working, of course, here in Rome, they know a lot of things that don't necessarily get into public circulation, but that will weigh heavily in their own minds and hearts. So we may see some of these issues that are, frankly, underreported, and that you just alluded to, as being very heavy on the minds of these cardinals as priorities. I would say that all of our viewers who are believers, that the most important thing to do between now and the actual election is to pray for God's guidance on these cardinals. And we at Priests for Life have started such a worldwide prayer campaign, and it's one of the most important things I think that people will do, as well as you know, speculating and looking at what the key signs might be about who it will be.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting discussion over the weeks to come. Father Pavone, always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you very much.